A few months ago, I uploaded a video where I took a trip down memory lane and reminisced about some of the most popular high school basketball phenoms with some of the most incredible highlight reels of the mixtape era. That video will be linked down in the description of this video, and today we're actually going to continue on that subject and make a part 2. There are so many mixtape legends who take the basketball world by storm at a very young age, garner millions of views on YouTube, and then for whatever reason don't pan out the way they were supposed to. A lot of these guys did manage to find some level of success in the sport, but just not to the degree that was expected. So in this video, we'll be taking a look at what they're up to now and how their basketball careers have gone. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first one we'll be discussing has got to be one of, if not the biggest legend in the mixtape game of all time, being KeKe Car. What made Car such a must-see sensation with almost 10 million views on his mixtape from 7 years ago is the fact that he was only 5'6" and was still able to look like the best player on the court. He even got nicknamed the Crime Stopper because of the fact that it was rumored that when he had a game going on, the crime rate in Baltimore would go down due to the fact that everyone in the city was too busy watching him play. He was fast, he had a ridiculously good ability to handle the ball and bust out any and every trick in the book, and he even had some explosiveness that caught defenders by surprise. Keeping Car in front of you on defense seemed like an impossible task, and he was even a 4-star recruit with some offers to some big-time schools. During his junior season in high school, he got offered a whopping $750,000 to play in Italy, but surprisingly he turned it down. He bounced around a few prep schools during his senior year, committed to play for Seton Hall, and then decommitted because he planned to play overseas. That plan didn't exactly come into fruition though, and instead of playing overseas, he played for a year in the D-League with the Delaware 87ers, but eventually asked the team for release shortly after the season started because of the fact that he wasn't getting much playing time. From there, he would go undrafted in the 2014 NBA draft, and without any offers from NBA teams, he would sign with the St. John Millrats of the Canadian League. That stint also didn't last very long because of his short temper and other off-the-court issues, and it ended in him getting released. In 2016, he played in the ABA, which is a semi-professional league in America, and now arriving in the present, he currently plays in the professional league in the country of Cyprus. He was always incredibly fun to watch, but reality hit him hard and he just wasn't ever able to overcome his physical limitations. The next former viral sensation in the basketball mixtape world we'll be discussing is 7th Woods. The notoriety 7th Woods began to receive started all the way back when he was only a 13-year-old, because as an 8th grader at the time, he was already starting for his high school's varsity team and producing at a high level. His mixtape on the YouTube channel hoopmixtape still to this day has the most views in the history of the channel, garnering over 15 million views. For someone so young, what popped was the fact that he was an absurd athlete already, and while competing with high school competition, he was flying through the air and throwing down ridiculous highlight reel dunks. He was crafty, he was explosive, and he seemed like a can't-miss prospect destined to dominate the game for years because of how fast he became a high-level player. In his high school career, he would rack up a ton of Player of the Year awards, championships, a state championship, and other individual accolades, and he even got invited to play for the U16 USA national team and play at the U16 championships, which the team won. With all of this being said, he was a good prospect in the eyes of recruiters, but not necessarily a transcendent one, so he was a 4-star player ranked 54th in his class according to ESPN. He committed to play for North Carolina, which, as all of you probably know, is one of the best, most accomplished college basketball programs in the entire country, so you would think after being destined for stardom from such a young age, he would thrive in the spotlight, right? Well, not quite. His college career to this point has been, without question, a disappointment. As a freshman, he averaged 1.5 points per game. As a sophomore, his minutes decreased and he averaged 1.1 points per game. Then, as a junior, he averaged a whopping 2.5 points per game. For a variety of reasons, he just simply wasn't a good enough player to get a big role at a team like UNC. And because of that, he has chosen to transfer to South Carolina, where he hopes his playing time will increase. He sat out all of this current season because of the transfer rules, so starting next season he will be eligible to play. He still has 2 years of eligibility as well, so by no means is he finished as a potential NBA prospect, but he also has a long way to go to prove himself after being an afterthought for 3 years. The next former viral sensation we'll be discussing is one by the name of Marcus LaVette. His sophomore year mixtape went crazy on the internet, racking up over 8 million views and wowing all that watched because of his insane handles and smooth moves on the court. He and KeKe Car went viral for very similar reasons, but the clear difference was that LaVette was actually 6 feet tall and had a more realistic shot at making it big. He was leading his high school to state titles, winning Player of the Year awards, setting school records for scoring, and was in every way the big man on campus. By the end of his high school career, he was ranked in the ESPN Top 100, but despite all of the success, was still just a 4-star recruit. He committed to play for St. John's, and unlike the first 2 players we've discussed, actually had a very strong career there. He played 2 seasons, averaged about 16 points, while shooting 45% from the field and 38% from 3, which are very good marks for a scoring guard. Because of this, he chose to go pro after those 2 years and pursue his professional career, but after going undrafted in 2018, he now plays professionally in Serbia, where he's averaging about 21 points and 4 assists per game. The NBA may not be in his future, but he is still making good money and playing the game at a high level, which isn't that bad of a substitute. The next former sensation of high school we'll be discussing is Quay Parker. If you've ever heard of the phrase jump out of the gym, and I'm sure you have, then there aren't many players it applies to more than Quay Parker. This dude had unbelievable hops, and the sheer nature of his athleticism was honestly just absurd. He was named the best dunker in high school basketball, and for good reason, because if he had an opportunity to do so, he was going to punch one down. It was rumored that he had a 50-inch vertical, but even if that was just a myth, I wouldn't doubt him being somewhere in the high 40s. Think Zion Williamson, but in guard form. He played alongside Harry Giles in high school, who was ranked as the best player in his high school class, and together they made a near unstoppable duo. All this momentum came to a halt when he suffered a season-ending injury as a junior, and even though he came back and had a pretty good senior season, he was no longer seen as one of the best guards in his class, not making the ESPN Top 100. He committed to play for Tennessee, but after 1 season in which he barely played at all, he chose to transfer when it concluded to a community college. From there, his return to Division I basketball came at North Carolina A&T, which is a mid-major. He averaged 7 points per game this season for them, and now moving forward, his future in the game is a bit of a mystery. In all likelihood, he'll continue playing overseas or perhaps in the G League, but that is obviously yet to be seen. The next former sensation we'll be discussing is one by the name of Trey Jefferson. Jefferson fell into the same boat as KeKe Car, being someone that stood at just 5'7", which has made me realize that people really tend to gravitate towards undersized players going off, and honestly, I can't blame them, because it is incredibly interesting to see. His mixtape On Ball Is Life has gotten over 4 million views, and no matter who you put in front of him, he always played up to the competition and not only held his own, but dominated. Jefferson was always vocal about wanting to make a difference, and when he committed to play for Texas Southern, an HBCU Division I program, he said he wanted to reverse the trend of HBCU players not making it to the NBA. He was planning to put on a show upon arrival, and that's exactly what he did. In his freshman season, he averaged 15 points per game, and then as a sophomore, he exploded to average 23 points per game, which was one of the best marks in all of Division I in 2018. He did it while shooting 42% from the field and 39% from 3, so he was also fairly efficient, and things were looking up. Well, they were until he got suspended indefinitely from the team for reasons undisclosed to the public. He would not return to the program after that, and now he still has yet to find a new home to play 2 years later. He still has 2 years of eligibility left, or he could probably find a home playing internationally, professionally, but for whatever reason, he hasn't done any of that yet. And finally, the last player we'll be talking about in this video is Gabe York. Back in 2012, Gabe York was one of the most exciting prospects there was, and through the magic of mixtapes, he gave off the idea that he had the complete package on offense, capable of taking games over and dominating. With the ball in his hands, he could get by anybody, and with even the smallest bit of space, he would take off and explode to the rim for a dunk. He finished his high school career as his high school's all-time leading scorer, and he was a 4-star recruit by the end, and would go on to commit to play for the University of Arizona. Early on at Arizona, he was looking destined to fall down the same path as the rest, barely playing at all and posting minimal numbers in the time he got, but every year, he actually improved more and more, and by the time he was a senior, he was a very solid contributor to the team. He averaged 14 points per game that season, and funnily enough, his biggest asset became his jump shot after making a name for himself originally as a dunker. He didn't get drafted in 2016, and he also never made an NBA roster, but since then he's bounced around a couple G League teams, he played in Italy, Germany, and now currently he's playing in Greece. In the end, the one thing to keep in mind is the amount of hype surrounding your name early on in high school doesn't always mean much, because for every Zion Williamson that succeeds, there's 10 other prospects that don't live up to the hype. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below your thoughts on these players. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.